The ham was already drying out when my mother made the announcement. It was Christmas afternoon in Surrey. Snow thinning into grey slush along the curb. My parents' dining room looked exactly as it had when I was 12. Same brass chandelier. Same framed school portraits. Same insistence on formality. I had flown in from Washington, D.C., 3 days earlier. My current posting overseas had been temporarily suspended for training at the Foreign Service Institute. The townhouse assigned to me abroad, a leased diplomatic residence, was vacant under government hold. I hadn't expected that to matter at Christmas dinner. My mother clinked her glass. "We have exciting news," she said, smiling too broadly. "We sold your empty house." The table went quiet in a way that wasn't confusion, it was anticipation. My father reached into a leather portfolio and laid several cashier's checks on the tablecloth, fanning them out like playing cards. "You never use it," he said. "Waste of space." I remember noticing the numbers before I reacted to the words. The checks were made out to Hins. 6 figures in pounds. I set my coffee down carefully. "Which house?" I asked evenly. "The one overseas." My mother replied. "You said you weren't there, we handled it." The buyer was very motivated. A few cousins exchanged glances. Someone laughed nervously. For years my job had been a family punchline. "Our daughter the diplomat." My father would say, half proud, half mocking. When I tried to explain bilateral agreements or consular protections, he would wave it away. Paperwork. He built his identity around visible transactions. Properties bought, deals closed, cash counted. This, in his mind, was another deal. I felt the calculation happening in my head. The residence wasn't mine. It was leased by the U.S. government under diplomatic agreement. Furnished, inventoried, documented, protected. You don't sell a diplomatic residence. You didn't have authority to do that, I said quietly. My father leaned back. "It was in your name on the mail. It's federally controlled property." He smiled in a way that suggested I was being dramatic. "Don't exaggerate." I didn't argue. Instead, I excused myself to the hallway, where coats were piled on the radiator. I scrolled to a contact labeled RSO. Mitchell, Regional Security Officer. I typed potential unauthorized transfer of leased diplomatic property by private individuals. Need guidance. Location. Surrey, UK. He responded within 3 minutes. Stay where you are. Do not escalate. Provide address. I returned to the table. My mother was carving pie now. As if this were a charming anecdote. "You could at least thank us," she said. "We increased your assets." I sipped my coffee. "Wasn't my asset," I replied. 40 minutes later, a black vehicle pulled up outside. It wasn't dramatic, no sirens, it unmistakable. 2 individuals in dark overcoats approached the door. Identification badges visible. My uncle, who had been refilling wine glasses, peered through the curtain. "Claire," he whispered to my mother. "There are officials outside." The knock was firm, deliberate. My father opened the door with the confidence of someone expecting a neighbor. The taller officer spoke first. "Sir, we're with the Diplomatic Security Service. We're investigating an unauthorized sale of federally leased property associated with a U.S. diplomatic posting." The room changed temperature. "I think there's been a misunderstanding," my father began. "We were informed that cashier checks were exchanged this afternoon." The officer continued calmly. "We'll need to review all documentation immediately." No raised voices. No theatrics, just process. They asked me to confirm my role and current assignment. I provided identification. My diplomatic credentials were examined, then returned. "Did you authorize the transfer of the residence located at?" He read the address precisely. "No," I said. "I did not." My father attempted to frame as a family arrangement. "She's our daughter. We were helping." The shorter officer responded without emotion. "The property is under federal lease agreement and protected by international treaty. Unauthorized sale constitutes potential fraud and interference with government operations." The word fraud seemed to land physically. The cashier's checks were collected as evidence. The buyer's name was recorded. Statement taken from everyone present. Relatives avoided eye contact. The cousins who had smirked earlier now stared at their plates. My mother's composure fractured first. "We didn't know," she said, voice thinning. "We thought it was hers. It was assigned to her." the officer clarified. That is not the same as ownership. The conversation remained civil. That was the unsettling part. Authority without anger. By the time the officers left, the Christmas lights in the front window reflected off the black vehicle as it drove away. Silence lingered in the dining room. My father sat down slowly. The portfolio remained open, now empty. You embarrassed us, he muttered. I looked at him steadily. I didn't call them to embarrass you, I said. I called because it's a federal matter. In the months that followed, there were lawyers' restitution demands, negotiations to prevent formal charges. The buyer sought compensation. The funds were frozen. I cooperated when contacted. Provided statements. Nothing more. My mother once in early spring. We didn't realize, she said, not quite apologizing. I know, I replied. That was true. Not the legal framework. Not the implications. Not the fact that my role wasn't symbolic. When I returned overseas later that year, I stood on the balcony of the reassigned residence at dusk. Official seal on the gate. Inventory verified. Papers in order. The city lights flickered below. For most of my life, my authority had been invisible at family tables, reduced to stories they half listened to. It took a knock at the door and 2 federal badges for them to see it clearly. I didn't feel victorious, just accurate. And for the first time, that was enough.